It's not easy living on a dying planet, but it is easy to feel overwhelmed when it comes to making changes and taking action to try and save it. Where do you start? Is it even worth it? Can you really make a difference? Welcome to the Tea on Sustainable Living podcast, where we attempt to answer these questions by spilling the tea on living sustainably in a world that's going to shit. I'm Brandy.
And I'm Hannah. And for years we've been navigating the big, messy grey area of caring about our planet. It hasn't always been smooth sailing, but we're not giving up yet. So, brew yourself a cup of tea, get comfy, and let's try and navigate that grey area together. Hello, Give a Shitters. This is Hannah.
And this is Brandy, and you're listening to episode number 30 of the Tea on Sustainable Living podcast.
Hello. I just got distracted. I'm looking at my mic. I was like, oh, it doesn't. Ignore me. I thought I couldn't see this light for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, excuse me. Welcome to part 3 and the final part of our little mini series on travel.
Sustainable travel. What are we talking about in this one?
We're talking about thinking long term, maybe kind of what happens after you go home. Mm-hmm. Is there anything we should kind of keep thinking about? Should we keep either about the trip we've just had or things to keep in mind, like for the next trip, even if we haven't like got there yet? So a bit, I guess, the stuff that I'm not very good at, honestly. They're like the long-term detail-oriented maybe, or like planning. I don't really know, but like
reflecting.
I don't know. Yeah, reflecting. I guess it's just like it is easy to sort of like, you know, I was thinking when I was like trying to think about this episode a little bit, I was like, you know, it's easy, you know, you go and you have your holiday and it's all great, and then you just kind of come home and kind of forget about it a little bit.
Business as usual.
Yeah, it's just like straight back, and you know, that's kind of like part of that, I guess, is just like how our society is set up, you know, in terms of like your holiday days, and you know, you don't normally have that much time to just sit and look back because you're kind of home and you're straight into like work and your everyday routine. And then also I think some of it is just like my personality, that I'm kind of an in the moment kind of person. So so I guess that is like it's a good thing, good to talk about today.
Cool. So a quick recap. Episode 28 was kind of the planning before you go part of it.
Yeah.
Episode 29 was like while you're there.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are.
And you can find all of those episodes where, Brandy, if you want to click back and listen.
Well, if you're listening on a podcast player like Apple or Spotify or Google Podcast, just, I don't know,
scroll back.
Just scroll back, yeah. Or you can go to the teonsustainableliving.com, which now looks a bit different, but you can scroll and find all the past episodes there. And then I might tack on souvenirs. We kind of ran out of time in our last episode, the Why You're There.
Yeah, but I like that. That's fine.
End. Yeah.
What we take home.
Yeah. So yeah, for this one, I like some of your like examples, or like your brain dump for this episode was, like how you can kind of contribute to, or like have an impact on some of the kind of longer term like issues that come up when traveling like year round. So you said like, for example, carbon offsets, buying holiday clothing throughout the year. And kind of, I guess it's just like keeping in mind those things. So I think we already talked about it in the planning episode. And then we also have a carbon offset episode, like way back when. Do we have? No, we don't. We have a flying episode. Number 7.
where we talked about carbon offsetting. So we like, you know, you can kind of set that up so you're paying that monthly, which is like a good kind of like set and forget, but what you're bearing in mind your like holiday stuff, I guess. And then I guess I was just thinking, for me, again, this is like the not planning personality type, but I think that is probably like when I like make some of the least sustainable choices, like in some ways maybe just before a holiday or like an event in general, it's where you're like, oh shit, like I need this outfit, or I'm like a bit broke because I'm about to go away, so I'm gonna like cut corners because I want this like new bikini, but you know, like I don't know, like I haven't really thought about it before, and now I'm just like gonna buy the cheapest thing because I want this thing. And I mean, of course, you can always like, talk to yourself and you're like, do you need really, it's a want, it's not a need. So you can also just like not. And that is also maybe a mindset shift. Like, I know maybe not having your specific like vacation, like holiday clothes, like you don't need a whole new set of outfits to go on holiday, which, isn't really me anyway. But it's true, like those like specific things that you might suddenly need, like if you kind of have those in mind all year round, you might make more sustainable choices. Or if you're someone, for example, like last year I went on like a hiking holiday, so that like investing, if that's something that you like to do, whether like maybe more of like an active kind of holiday like hiking or skiing or whatever that might be, like probably you like to do that outside of your holiday, so you're already building that up, but like kind of purposefully like investing in pieces for that hobby throughout the year, rather than being like, oh, I'm like going away on this like hiking holiday, like I suddenly need to buy like new shoes and like trekking poles and like new, I don't know, like XYZ thing, rather than like I guess keeping it in mind all year round. Is that something you do, or you're more of a planner than me?
I think I've definitely been guilty in the past of buying, especially for like any kind of warm weather beach type of holiday, of buying new cover-ups and bathing suits just for that trip, because I mean it's like a societal thing, like it like it felt like the acceptable thing to do, and like
and it
more than acceptable, like the thing to do. You're going on a trip, you go shopping now for that trip. But now I think, well, like that's silly, like it gets warm in Madrid, like just bring the clothes I wear when it's really hot here, and the bathing suits I already wear to the pool, the cover-ups I already wear to the pool, which is just like either a sundress or a tank top and shorts. They don't need to be like specific to only that event. It's like I've kind of switched into a more multi-purpose type of mindset. But I mean, I feel like it's still not like super uncommon to feel like, okay, I'm going on this trip, I do need this specific thing, or whether it's a new travel container for toiletries, or I don't know, whatever the thing is. But yeah, I think I've definitely shifted. But I was curious, when you were talking, like, do you feel like you've started to shift your mindset of like kind of building up like hiking type stuff throughout the year?
Not necessarily.
You're wanting to.
Yeah, this is more a wanting to. Okay. I mean, I think, I'm like, we've talked about this before. I'm not like super like clothing oriented. So I guess it's like less likely, but I definitely know, like I just was away on like a beach trip, and I did go to Vinted, so I feel okay. But I was like, oh, like I really noticed that, especially maybe the type of holiday, like, so I went away with some like good friends, and obviously I know none of them would like judge or care, and they definitely don't. But it is like, oh, well, we're going on like a girls trip, and like everyone's like, oh, I've like got this, this new thing, and you kind of like want to fit in almost. Yeah. So I definitely did feel like a bit of that. And the same, like this is kind of going a bit off topic. It wasn't like a trip, but it could have been. I went to this like dance festival that was in Madrid, but could easily have been so like somewhere else. I would definitely have traveled for it. And having that same thing, like, oh, I want like an outfit for like dance, like I don't know.
Even though I guess you don't dance naked when you dance in Madrid, like you have things to wear. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like I already have things, or like maybe there's like an in-between thing that I could get that would be like something that I would wear regularly if I bought it. I don't know. This is feeling a bit more like pre-planning for the holiday, but
well, it's kind of, I guess gone on your trip. It's like kind of reflecting on your trip, and then how can you do it better next time? Like it's because it is part after your trip, but also longer term, and some of these things do require longer term. So something I thought about is like saving monthly
Yeah.
for things, and just tie into like building up your kind of travel wardrobe throughout the year for whatever your, preferred thing is, a hiking trip, a beach trip. Um,
Yeah, that's true. And then even if you're just buying it just before the trip, when you've got like more specific details, because you've been saving up all year, you're less likely to be like, oh shit, like I don't have any money. So
right. And if you
better
are
buy
buying,
like this cheap thing, you
yeah,
know.
if you are buying something right before a trip, yeah, you've been saving, so you can buy maybe it's a bit more expensive, I don't know, dress for dancing, but you're gonna wear it when you're
Right.
dancing back in Madrid. So it's not just for this one trip. It's gonna stay in your wardrobe
Yeah.
long term, or whatever it is, whether it's a new suitcase or anything, any item kind of related to
Yeah.
travel.
This is
But it is technically, yeah, part planning. But I mean, all of these parts of the series,
right.
you have to plan for things.
Yeah. I guess this is again well, but I've been thinking about this. Maybe it was you, someone suggested to me, when I go to my trip to the States, I'm going to a wedding and I'm in the bridal party, and the color of we can choose our own dress and kind of like the style, but it's like in general, like a sage, like olive green, like we were talking about this before. And I mean, I think maybe it was you who suggested this to me, but I was like looking then about the like renting an outfit.
Rent the runway.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's like a really good idea. Which again, I don't really know how this exactly fits in, but like, yeah, you could maybe like rent some of your holiday wardrobe, or like one of those like I don't know.
I think for me, something like a wedding would make sense, but if it was just like outfits for like a general, I don't know, beach holiday, I would feel, I don't know, stressed
Nervous.
that I would like ruin the clothes and then
get some
sunscreen. I don't know how that
everything
works. Yeah, I don't know how that works when you rent certain clothes, like the condition you have to return it in, or I'm sure there are fees involved for damaging the item. But yeah, for a wedding, something that and I either wear the same black dress. Yeah, kind of just update it based on over time, based on whatever my current style and sizes, and I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of this it's longer term impact, but it's also like longer term planning, because I think, at least my thinking is that, okay, you're planning for a trip, like the part one of the series is that it's already booked.
Right.
So you don't have the time to save throughout the year and invest in these, I don't know, more expensive items because it's coming up soon. But the idea, I think part of the like reflecting after a trip and long-term impact, but also long-term like planning to kind of shift your mindset and
to make it easier.
Yeah. To make it easier for yourself longer term. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this was the other thing that I was like thinking about, especially is like kind of that longer term impact in the country that you went to. And like we were talking about in the first episode about how so much money goes away, because like goes away from the country you're actually in. And like, is this something like kind of remembering that country after you've been, or that destination? Like, is there, within like the things that you're particularly interested in, like whether that's like human rights issues or like animal welfare or like, forest reserves, I don't know, whatever it is, that's kind of something that's like also like meaningful for you, but maybe considering like when you're deciding where you might want to donate, or if you're like investing in something, like kind of looking at those like destinations or those countries as like to see if there's like an option there to like kind of continue to support that place in some way, whether that's, that might be long term, or you might just be like, okay, like every year I like decide to like, I don't know,
donate whatever amount,
to this place or like this, to kind of bring that money back into the community.
I think even just like talking about like when part of going back to what we mentioned in the beginning, like reflecting on a place and what you got out of it, whether it was, you went to all the museums or you went to an animal sanctuary, whatever you like learned, or had conversations with local people, and bringing that back and kind of bringing that to your like circle of friends, family, and like talking about it. And whether it's these like you find these organizations and maybe you can't afford to like donate monthly, yearly, whatever, but just like talking about that place and, you know, the forest or
Mm-hmm.
this forest or this neighborhood or whatever has really been impacted by it. And just, I don't know, making it a part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
your post travel conversations when you're showing pictures to your friends and family. Or maybe you are sharing souvenirs, but okay, I actually bought this in this local artisan market, and the woman I bought it from, or the person I bought it from,
yeah,
whatever, was told me her, life story, and I don't know, just trying to incorporate,
yeah,
I guess more like storytelling, or like, I don't know,
yeah,
if
yeah. I
that makes
like
sense.
that. I think that makes sense. And kind of related to that, maybe, or not exactly, but like this isn't something I really do, but I guess especially maybe for more like independent like restaurants or
Mm.
businesses, like leaving positive reviews
Oh yeah, that's
and
something I need
like
to be better at.
boosting, or like if depending on like the kind of person you are, like if it makes sense for you to like, I don't know, you went on a great like eco-friendly like tour, like
Mm,
sharing their Instagram, like
yeah.
their business on your stories, or like writing a review so that when someone's like looking for them, that'll be like kind of pop up.
Hmm.
I think that can have like a really positive impact on like smaller businesses,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I need to be better about doing that in my like everyday life,
Right.
which
Yeah. It's
which
not
kind of
something I
goes in,
normally
yeah,
do, but
kind of goes to what we were saying before about like clothing and incorporating
mm,
your travel wardrobe, like just have that, just use your regular wardrobe. So like whatever you're like, a lot of like these good habits for when traveling apply to just your everyday life,
yeah.
and the impact you have on like your surroundings and the people around you, including
Yeah. And I
leaving
guess,
reviews and, where you spend your money and
yeah. And I guess, I mean, this is just coming to me now, and maybe it's like kind of like an offshoot, but like if in that reflection process, um, if you can kind of work out what it was that like brought you a lot of joy from your
mm,
holiday, and like are the ways like to incorporate um
hmm,
incorporate that into your like everyday life
yeah,
in some way. And like maybe especially if there might be some, the may, depending on what you feel, like there may or may not be like some move towards like, like maybe reducing the amount of foreign holidays you take, or like
hmm,
reducing, like kind of maybe having a staycation. Like if you can kind of be a bit more reflective and work out if there are those things that you can like bring into your everyday life.
hmm,
And of course, some of like what's great about holidays just not working, which,
yeah.
it's a bit harder to do.
So
And,
quit your job.
sometimes being in like a different location really helps. Like you really
Yeah.
do feel like you're away. Like I'm not being anti-travel at all here, but maybe, you can bring a little bit of that into your life. And so it's like you feel less like, oh, I need to like do everything when I'm at this holiday place,
Hmm.
because you're like, oh, actually, like I go to the art galleries in like the city I live in because that's something I really enjoy, or like
Hmm.
you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever that is for you. Like,
Yeah, no, that's a
I
good
don't
point.
know.
I was thinking about I came to Spain for a bit in college, and then anytime I would travel somewhere, even I even looked into like wherever I was living for like Spanish restaurants that had like
Mm,
gazpacho and patatas bravas and
yeah.
all the foods that like I remembered having and enjoying like that summer. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
like in a way I did do that. Like, okay, where's their Spanish restaurant? Like I wanna like I had such I
Yeah.
enjoyed
Yeah.
that
Bring it
food
back.
so much. It was so hot that summer and that gazpacho every day was just perfect, and like finding a Spanish restaurant where I
Yeah.
lived or whenever I would travel and just like kind of like reliving that, but like not needing
That's
to
really
fly
cool.
all the way back to Spain. Obviously I've now since moved here, but
But no, I actually remember I followed this woman. It's called, I think we've talked about this before actually, but like she's called Hey Laura Hey, and on Instagram, and she has this thing. I remember in one of her newsletters she talked about like kind of transporting yourself to a different place for a day. Obviously this is easier if you live in like a big city, but she really likes France and Paris, and I think she lives in New York. So she was like purposefully having a day of like, she like went to kind of like a like a bakery for breakfast, and she
mm-hmm.
kind of wore her like outfit that made her feel a bit French, and like went and had a croissant, and then like I don't know, went to an art gallery or like went to like a part of the town that was like more like maybe European looking. Like I can't remember the details, but like
I think I do remember you
kind of
telling me
like
this.
planning and like listening to like French music because she like walked around and like I think we have talked about it before because I remember it really like striking me and just being like, not that I've necessarily like done anything about it, but like being, you know, like, oh, is this something you really miss or that you kind of really want to feel a little bit of like how you felt in that place? Like you can maybe capture that or, you know, I don't know, go to like, like a specific restaurant or like a,
or do you just not want to work for the day or week or whatever?
Also
maybe
true.
That's it. Yeah, because that is
maybe you just need a day off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I do remember you saying that. I think I was about to reference that unknowingly. Like, so I think someone told me once about someone went to France. It was you. It was that story. And it was probably in one of our episodes. I don't remember which one. Probably the flying one. I don't know if you've done other travel ones, but yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to France soon, so I'll see if I don't know how many French places are in Spain, let alone how many like vegan
yeah,
French
I was gonna say
options are in Madrid, but
a lot of butter in France.
Sorry, there are very noisy doors being opened.
Don't worry.
On my floor.
Yeah, I did one. I was like, oh, is that in my house? That's more squeaking than usual. So, yeah. What else?
Yeah, I just think, it just seems like the general theme of this is incorporating things you enjoy from a trip, but also reducing your impact on a place in your travel. It's the common thread is like bringing that into your everyday life, whatever that looks like for you. Whether it's how you get around, mode of transportation, like we didn't really touch on it in the last one, getting around, because it's kind of similar to just getting to and from a place is, you know, the lower emissions, the better if possible. You know, taking trains and metros over like a car, but maybe renting a car is the better option. Anyway.
Yeah. So what about the things you bring back, the souvenirs?
Oh, the actual things
you wanted to have.
The actual items, the souvenirs. Just got me thinking about. Sorry, I just hit my computer. I think one of the articles I found that I wanted to talk about in the last one, it mentioned like traditional clothing. Okay. And it also kind of was talking more about like what not to bring back in terms of like bulky items and things you're not going to wear. But it just got me thinking about just the things you buy in a place in general and are, you know, magnets, mugs, t-shirts, whatever the kind of typical things are. And, you know, they might say made in China on the tag or on the bottom. Is that the best like souvenir? I don't know. Maybe you have a magnet collection that you're very proud of and you've built up over the years. You get one every new place you go. Not necessarily talking about that, but like I've definitely been guilty of buying like the mug, the t-shirt, the magnet, because I felt like I needed to kind of buy all the things to like show proof of like, look, I went here. Yeah. In a way of like maybe even a part of like alleviating that like sadness of leaving a place. If you buy these things, it's like it stings less because you're bringing a bit of that place back with you. But then if it's like made in China, like, are you really?
Right, you know, that item is already, unless you're in China, has already traveled a very long way to like get to you. You know, and again, I guess that's like a point where you could, if you want to bring back souvenirs, which is like kind of very normal, as you say, like searching out, you know, the kind of like, is there like a local or independent, something specific? But
I think first, like, kind of reflect on why. Like, say you've just gotten back from a trip. This is the post part of this episode is like post trip. You're back. You've brought things home. Why did you want to bring these things home? What do you feel like you've gotten out of it? And is that what you would like to get out of future souvenirs?
Yeah, I guess for me, I've just come back. I brought earrings. And that's something that I do quite a lot. I just like earrings in general. And then I often like will buy earrings when I'm away. And then it like kind of, it's something that I wear a lot. And then it reminds me of like the place that I bought it as well. And I guess that can be like a nice, you know, depending on the mood, like if someone asks about them, you can be like, I bought these earrings in,
I got these in France.
Like, so chic, you know.
I think now
depending on what kind of a person you want to be in the moment.
Right. I think now I do a mix. Like I like went to a beach town like last summer, and I did get a magnet that's also a bottle opener, so it is useful sometimes
Mm,
on my fridge. But then I also got earrings from this. I don't know how
yeah.
local of a vendor they were, but like I guess for
Right.
me, it is bringing part of like my everyday life to a place. Like,
Mm,
am I buying this thing secondhand? Am I buying it firsthand? And is this how I want to spend my like? Do I really need to buy this firsthand
mm,
item? What need does it fill? Can I
yeah.
wait for it? But I
And then I
also
guess,
like I was gonna say I like also like when I do travel, like when we went to York, going to all the charity shops and like, okay, maybe it's a secondhand like Zara shirt or whatever it is. Like that doesn't really matter to me because I'm buying it from a local charity shop, and whenever I wear it, like my everyday life, like I think about, oh, I got this in York, and that reminds me of that
mm,
time.
yeah.
So like for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be like made in that place or always the most.
Yeah. I think
That's
this,
kind of my thoughts on like buying secondhand things
yeah.
here or where I live. Like I don't really, I want it to
Mm,
maybe be made of like cotton or linen, but other than that, I don't really care about the brand I'm buying it secondhand. So that in that case is more important to me. So it's if you like to go thrifting versus like buying firsthand stuff, maybe from more
mm,
like local artisan places, and making sure they are actual like local artisan places and not
yeah.
like an area designed for tourists. And then it's like read the fine print, made in Taiwan or China, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I kind of do about like a mix now,
Mm,
but I definitely don't buy a mug every place I go or a t-shirt every place I go. If I do, maybe it's from a charity shop or a thrift store.
yeah. I guess it is
I
that,
don't know.
yeah, being honest, isn't it? Because I've definitely been that optimistic souvenir buyer
Mm,
where you kind of get caught up like, oh, I'm going to buy this for so and so, or like, I've like definitely found, like tidying up and I'll find like, I don't know, 10 postcards from like somewhere I visited like 3 years ago
mm,
where I obviously very overly optimistically was like, I'm going to send all these postcards and then never did. And then you're a bit like, oh, so I guess maybe being like real with yourself as well, isn't it? Like, what do you
yeah.
need? What is, you know, if you're buying postcards or like, of course, buy postcards, but like, are you going to get around to like writing them and sending them while
Mm.
you're away? Or are they just going to kind of like sit in your suitcase for
Or do you collect
the
them?
next trip? Or
That's
do you
fine.
collect them and you love
Yeah.
having them and you look at them?
Yeah. I think I don't really do the postcards anymore because I'll just like because there was like a mix of like pictures of the place you're at. I'll just send pictures I've taken that day. Which hey, yeah, having
I
a great
made my own
time.
postcard.
I mean, in the digital age we live in, yeah.
Mm,
To me, that like makes more sense. But speaking of photos, like photos for me have become like a big part, especially when I used to bring my like kind of big fancy DSLR camera, like
hmm.
photography while I was there. That was a big part of it. I mean, now I just use my phone because the pictures are fine. And so I
Yeah.
was like reflecting on your trip, like the photos and adding them to like my screensaver rotation. And
That's a good idea.
but I've also found I don't need to take as many pictures. When I used to bring like my camera, it was the whole trip was like, okay, how can I get the best photos? And I think
Right.
that's
And that was
fine,
part
but
of it.
sometimes that you can kind of you remove yourself from the place you're in a bit too much. So
Mm,
like when I used to take pictures at concerts, trying to balance like getting pictures that like I will enjoy like looking at later and like to remind me of that time, but also like being in the moment.
yeah.
Yeah, I think taking photos is a great way to. I think did I say it in this episode or the last one? Like when you take a picture of a place, you're more likely to remember it than if you're in the picture. Because if you're in the picture, it like gives your brain permission to like not
Yeah.
remember it as much. It's like okay, no, I'm in that picture, so like I don't
Hmm.
need to remember that as much. I think I'm getting that right. I don't know what the exact
Yeah.
science behind that is, but that was my takeaway from that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a great if you already have a camera phone. Sorry, my knee just cracked very loudly. But just take pictures. Like maybe you don't even need to buy anything.
Yeah, it's true. And I guess this is again off top, but like that thing of like maybe depending on where you are, you feel more pressure. So it's like knowing what, again, like kind of knowing yourself. And of course that changes in the place, but
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like, and maybe like going away from a real weekend in Spain, I'm like less likely to take a bunch of photos and want to get souvenirs because it feels kind of more,
Yeah.
whereas maybe if you were somewhere further afield, you'd feel a bit more like, oh, I've got to. So kind of like slowing down that like anxious energy. And like, obviously if you want to, like, go for it. But actually it's like, oh, does it, you know, like, yeah, finding that balance as we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
Anything else? Where are we? We're good.
I think just, to tie it all together, we kind of touched on carbon offsets. And I already kind of mentioned, like, as far as, you know, reflecting on your trip and how can you lessen your like long-term impact on a place? I think it starts with incorporating changes into your everyday life, because then you will bring those habits and changes into like when you travel. So like as far as carbon offsetting, I think we've talked about it before that, you know, you can do these offsets and you can do it at the point of sale when you book a trip. You can like tick that box, but you know, whether you do a monthly donation or contribution, which I do, you know, how can you just reduce your overall footprint so that you don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if travel is important to you, let me try this again. If travel is like important to you and you're not willing to like give up flying, which we're not saying you are, like we fly.
Not.
What other areas can you make changes in, like whether it's diet or where you live or energy consumption or voting, and you know, because it's not all about the individual, which we've talked about before, advocating where when possible, because it, you know, traveling doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is a part of your overall life. So how can you?
Right. And I guess like in terms of voting, like maybe this making yourself aware of like the tourism in your city and like voting or like being engaged with the ways like that your government or your local government or however it works in your country is like trying to make it either like more or less sustainable, and like taking an active interest in that perhaps as well. That's a good point.
Yeah. I hope I expressed that coherently. I kind of lost my train of thought.
No.
In the middle of it all, but don't have to give up traveling.
No.
Just can maybe slow down a bit. And
are there any things from what we've been talking about, this little mini series, that you're gonna take with you or try and incorporate for your upcoming trips? Or maybe not upcoming, but
I think just reminding myself that it is okay to slow down. And like you don't need to do all the things, because I do like to make a list, more of like a reference list for like when I'm in a place.
Yeah.
But reminding myself that it's not like a to-do list. It is a reference list. And
I think
no, go ahead.
I think for me, I think I'm going to try and like implement some of these more, the longer term, like the planning things, like setting up like a monthly carbon offsetting donation, I think, and then being more purposeful about saving money specifically for holidays rather than just like the general savings part.
Right.
And so that I have like that money there. So I'm like, don't feel like I'm wanting to do all these things and then maybe cutting corners a bit, you know, or missing out depending on my mood at the moment, in the moment, and how ethical I'm feeling. Whether either just don't do the thing or I like do it in a way that I don't feel very comfortable with. So I think those things, and especially like maybe some of the set and forget kind of things, you know, taking some time to do some research and then just,
but then not forget,
okay,
not completely forgetting.
No, completely forgetting. No, it's true.
No, I mean. All right. And with that, I think this might be our last episode for a long summer break.
Yes.
So you'll likely hear from us on the other side of summer. So
yeah, enjoy your travels. If you're traveling, enjoy where you're living. Keep us updated. We might post the odd thing on Instagram or we might not. But let us know what you're listening to, what you're enjoying.
Yeah. What your main travel kind of takeaway is from this little mini series, and how you'll apply it to future travels.
And this is 30 episodes, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
woo, yeah. I mean, woo, yeah. So that's pretty awesome. But you know, if you're desperately missing us over our extended summer vacation, you know, feel free to go back, listen to some old episodes.
Yeah.
You might have missed something, some gems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can find all of those episodes at theteonsustainableliving.com.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to you in the fall, the end of the summer, in a few months.
We'll see.
We'll
to
see.
be confirmed.
To be continued.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Tea on Sustainable Living podcast.
Now, go share it with a friend,
A coworker,
a partner,
a family member,
or whoever.
a pet, your cat,
Someone on the street. Whoever you think could use a little more support on their sustainability journey. Share it.
You can send them over to our website, theteaonsustainableliving.com. And while you're there, check out the show notes for more info on today's topic.
All right, give a shitters. See you later. Get it? See you later, as in see you later? So funny.
Brandy.